is Jacqueline Simons, and this is my narrative speech for oral communications. If you ever had to take driver's ed as a teenager, you know exactly how uneventful it can be. You take nights out of your summer and free time during the school year to sit in a room with too many other students for too many hours at a time. You go on hour-long drives with no music and no distraction. However, for my 15-year-old self and my driving partner, what should have been an easy highway drive turned into a trip that we will never forget. This particular summer morning started off normally, with my friend and I arriving a few minutes early for our scheduled drive time. It was a typical Iowa summer day with the sun shining and not a cloud in the sky. I started off the drive with my partner in the back and our instructor riding shotgun next to me as we headed north on Highway 380 toward the small town of Brandon, Iowa, home to the world's largest frying pan. Everything was going smoothly 45 minutes into our trip when the instructor asked me to make a stop at a gas station to fill up and give us a lesson on gas pumps. As the three of us stepped out of the car, I looked to my left to see some very dark clouds rolling in on the horizon, although where we were standing, the weather was still beautiful for a summer day. Some time went by as we were taught where to place the gas pump and what buttons to push on the machine, when suddenly the wind started to pick up and all of us were almost knocked off of our feet. Those clouds to our left were rolling in quickly, but the wind still seemed far enough away that they didn't present any immediate danger to us. The gas station was about 15 minutes away from the parking lot of Brandon, of the world's largest frying pan, where we planned to switch drivers and then return home. So we quickly packed into the car again and started heading in the direction of town. As my partner and I nervously watched those clouds advance towards us, our instructor informed us that he was a high school science teacher and did some part-time storm spotting for a local weather station in his free time. This of course meant that he could tell exactly what kind of clouds were in the sky and that they were just going to blow by. And he let us know, or not 5 minutes later, the wind picked up, the sky darkened significantly, and the clouds opened up with a downpour of rain. We could barely see 2 feet in front of the car as wind slammed against the side, and we slowed down to a crawl with all the other cars on the highway. Minutes later, the lightning and thunder came with even heavier rain that forced us to pull off to the side of the road once we had reached the small town of Brandon. As we sat in our parked car on the single main street in that town, we saw sheets of water sliding off of the barn roof to our left and water filling up the small ditch on the side of the road to our right. We stayed here for about 10 minutes until we decided it was safe enough to continue driving again. We crawled along the narrow road until we reached the tiny parking lot that was half flooded from the storm and continued to fill with water and mud as the rain fell. It was still lightning at this point, so our instructor told us not to switch drivers until we reached the gas station again on the way home. I turned the car around and we headed back down the single main road that we had come in on. This is where we ran into our big dilemma. In just the few minutes that we had spent sitting in the parking lot, this small gravel road had flash flooded behind us and now had a stream of water carrying tree branches across it. Since this was really the only road in the town, we had no choice but to drive farther north and look for a back road to get us home on a different route. We drove on 2-lane roads through nothing but cornfields for half an hour and came across 2 more flooded paths that forced us to turn around before we finally found one that was free of standing water. After 2 difficult hours of driving, we eventually found another gas station where we switched drivers and got back on the main road that would take us home. When we finally pulled into the parking lot back at home, the sun was already bright and shining again, ready for the next set of drivers. In the end, my partner and I agreed that we had definitely learned some valuable driving lessons that day, including where to place the gas pump and how to put your windshield wipers on the highest setting.